Hello, hello, good morning. Oh, let me just check if my microphone's on, in case it's not, because sometimes I start and it's not, seems to be on. How are you, lovely people? It is Thursday, down here in New Zealand, Thursday morning, and I am going live on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Libby, this is the Truly Myrtle podcast, and I'm live on YouTube and Facebook all at the same time every week, so you can come in and chat with me and hear what is happening with my weather, because we have to start with that always, and find out what I'm wearing and talk about knitting. Hi Katie from Northern California. It's finally cooling down. It's starting to warm up here. We're at the other end of it, and the sun is shining today. We've had so much rain, it's crazy, but it is actually shining and the weather is a little bit warmer. Barbara said it's sunny and windy in Rangiora, and you're happily knitting on your footsie socks. Oh good, Barbara, that sounds good. Kathy's calling in from Boston, and Jess is calling in from Tampa, Florida. And Mel is calling in from London. We have a very international group with us today, which is rather nice. I just told Mr. Myrtle as I disappeared out, I said, I'm wearing a t-shirt because I'm quite hot. I'm quite hot today. So I'm wearing a t-shirt, and he looked at me, is that a t-shirt? And I said, it is actually a t-shirt. This is a silk and cotton blend that makes a t-shirt. So I can wear a t-shirt, kind of. It's a DK, it's a little bit warm, but it's perfect for this in-between weather. It's the Noah t-shirt that is in Wardrobe Toolbox at the moment. So I'm heating up. When I heat up, my glasses fog up. Does that happen to anybody else? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, it's in Wardrobe Toolbox. It's one of the patterns we had this year inside Wardrobe Toolbox. Let me just defog my glasses and cool myself down, so that I can talk to you without steaming up. It's very steamy in here. Hi everybody, it's lovely to see you. Oh good, you're listening while you're walking your dog, Beth. That sounds like a good idea. In drizzly Minnesota, good on you for getting outside. South Australia, it's hot days, 32 degrees. That actually makes me feel even hotter, Natalie. That's really warm, isn't it? Hi Vancouver Island, Christina, nice to see you. Calfida. Sometimes I can't say things when I read them, Shona. It's terrible. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Janet. Nice to see you. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you. Patricia's calling in from Long Island, New York. Really good to see you all. Sometimes I get comments where people moan that I do too much chatting on this podcast, but it is actually a chatting podcast. I'm not going to do any knitting. I'm just going to chat to you about knitting and generally about life. So if you want to pop in here and have a chat to me, you are more than welcome. I love it. Okay, so I was going to talk some more about socks, and I did a little survey the other day. I thought this was interesting in my mini mag. If you want to be a subscriber to my mini mag, it's like it is free. It's a newsletter. I send it out once a week on a Thursday, or more often if I have a pattern, because you're the ones, the mini mag subscribers are the ones who get my discounts when I put out new patterns and decide to have a sale. I don't advertise them anywhere else. I put a survey in one of the recent mini mags. I should finish that previous thought. If you go to trulymyrtle.com/mini mag, you can jump on my mini mag list. And I did a survey, and it comes out, you get these results on the end of it, and it said, which sock needles do you use? And I had 3 options for people to click on. 9-inch circulars, that's these. These are technically not 9 inches when you use the little tiny one. So it's essentially the short cables with short needles on them, right? I didn't mind if you had 2 shorts or a long and a short like I do. DPNs, so DPNs, they're like our needles. Doesn't matter if they're wood or metal. And magic loop, and that's where you have a long cable like this. This is something I was making for the wardrobe toolboxes the other day. I'll slide that off my needle. A long cable, probably longer than this actually, really long cable, and then you work on one side, slide out. You work like, you have your knitting like that, and then you work along, and then you just divide your knitting in half, so you do half at a time, but you have this super long cable out here. That was the other option. And I said to people, if you're using the trios or the I think there's a couple of different names, then you could go into either the magic loop or the circulars, depending on what you feel they're most like. Anyway, we got the results. I was a bit surprised by the results. I haven't checked again this morning to see if they've changed, but when I checked the other day, we had a couple of hundred people, more than a couple of hundred people that replied, and the biggest group was magic loop, 42%. That's nearly half. Well, it's over a third of you, well over a third, using magic loop, which was surprised me. Are you a magic looper? I am not. I am not a magic looper. I have done magic loop, and sometimes when I'm knitting on a garment, you know, I do like a traveling loop, and so if I can't be bothered moving my stitches onto a smaller cable and I know I'm going to try it on, I just yank the cable round and keep going. And so I kind of do a traveling loop sometimes, but magic loop, I have done it. I think I have made socks with magic loop too. I've definitely done various things. Sleeves, I used to do magic loop on sleeves before I discovered shorties and little short sleeve needles. But anyway, 42%. The next group, 31%, that is about a third of you, use DPNs. How about that? DPNs. I did learn to start knitting socks on DPNs, and I still am quite fond of DPNs. There's something nice about them, and once you master how not to have the ladder, and to be honest, I think it's just practice. People have all sorts of techniques about how not to have a ladder between your needles. I think the secret is just keep those stitches firm on either side of the sock, either side of the needle as you're working around. And you could move your stitches around on the DPNs every now and then so you don't have a ladder in the same place. You could try that. But I think it's practice at the end of the day. But DPNs, 31%. And then trailing in last at 27%, still not terrible, still nearly a third, with 9-inch circulars, the minis. I have to say that these little minis, I've got the Chow ones, and they're the ones that I use with the long and the short needle. I really like those now. I was put off because at first I was put off because years ago I borrowed someone's 9-inch fixed circulars, and so they had two little short tips like that on a little tiny cable like that, but it was fixed, so I couldn't take it off. And I used it and I gave them back to her and said, I just really can't get on with these. I don't like them at all. I feel like all my energy is in the tips of my fingers. It's way too stressful. I'm finding this really stressful, and I didn't like it. And it took me years and years before I came back to them again. And then eventually I came back, and that is when I must have read somewhere about people using a 3-inch tip and a 2-inch tip. And so that is what I started doing. I tried that. It does take some getting used to. It definitely does. You just, you have to just persevere sometimes with these things. But it did take me a bit of getting used to. But once I did, that's it. I'm in. I'm totally in. So I really enjoy those now. The little short needles. I go really fast, just around the little sock loop. Let me see what you're saying, because I'm curious to see what you all think. Oh, it's bound to rain, Lynn. Yeah, because she got washing on the line. Absolutely. Liz says she uses 2 cables. Yeah, well, actually, I mentioned that last week. And when I'm doing toe-up socks, and even the toes, not so much the toes on a top-down sock, but it would be good to use it for that. But when I'm doing toe-up socks, I use 2 mini needles. I find it really easy to use 2, and so rather than going from, you know, having a little short length and trying to negotiate all the tiny stitches at the end, I go from one needle to the other needle. So I do like doing that. So 2 cables, I can see how that would be great. And I think that you run into the same thing that you might with a DPN, where you might develop a ladder, but I think you can get around that. Just keep things nice and firm and move around from one needle to the other, nice and firm. It's probably slightly less so because you've got the flexible cable with creating that ladder. But Ruth says, I like Magic Loop, but only for knitting 2 at a time. Yeah, lots of people use Magic Loop for 2 at a time. Judy says, I used all of them knitting socks. Magic Loop is my favourite 2 at a time. Another 2 at a time. I never do 2 at a time because I'm always trying to get one done and make it work. Jess says, I'm a Magic Looper. I just started trying 2 circulars, but still Magic Loop for me, travelling loop sometimes. Yeah, there's a lot of, see, you are a Magic Looper. Barbara's a Magic Looper as well. She tried the trios recently and they're not for you. I think I might have some of those over there. Where you have lots of needles on. They appeal to me to have a flexible cable with more needles that you move around. I think those are the trios. Strawberry Patches, that is Marina. She said, I used to do DPNs, but with Magic Loop, there's not much poking and the stitches have less ability to slide off. Well, that is true. That is absolutely true. And you don't drop a needle, because I don't know about you, but especially when I'm in the car, if I'm knitting in the car and I'm using 2 needles, especially DPNs, I have this habit of when I get to the end of the row, I just drop my needle. I don't know what I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking clearly, and I just discard the needle. I'm done. Right, I'm done with that. And then I go to get it again, and I think, oh, where have I put that needle? I've just thrown it somewhere, and it's usually slid down the side of the seat in the car. So yes, you don't run into that problem, do you? Linda says, no magic loop for me. I use 2 circulars. That's a good idea. Natalie says, I switch between DPNs and magic loop. I'm not seeing too many little shorties yet. Alyssa says, 2 socks at a time on magic loop. I find 9-inch circulars too tiny for my arthritic hands. That's what I was concerned about, and I do get a bit of problems with my thumbs, but not with these. I just on and off I get problems with my thumbs, but it's the 3-inch on the right hand side that has really helped me when I've done that. Tamsin says, magic loop for you too. Heather says, I've never had a ladder on DPNs. Heather, you're a marvel. Jess says, I wish I could do the minis, but they hurt my hands and I have to take breaks so often. I also knit continental, so I don't know if that's part of it or not. I don't know, Jess. But you're doing a lot of, oh, well, depends how you're working, isn't it? Whether you're pulling your stitches up or just lifting. I'm not sure if that would make a difference. Judy says, I have the minis. I might have to try the 2-sized minis. I recommend it, Judy. I really like it. Which side is the 3-inch needle on? Right hand side. It's the side that you're pulling the stitch, you're working into the stitch, that side. That's the side of the 3-inch tip for me. I knit English though, so you might want to experiment, but it sits nicely in my hand, and that seems to be my needle. That's the hand I do all actions with. This one just kind of guides it in, this one, so it's right. Pauline says, hi Libby, I use magic loop and 9-inch for colour work sections. Oh, on socks, Pauline? I mean, I think you could use those little shorties. If you really love them, you can get super long cables. So you could use them for all sorts of things. I actually don't know why you would, because I don't love them that much to use them for other knitting. Although my knitting needles have got shorter over the years. So I started with 5-inch tips, and then I went to 4-inch tips, which I really like the best. But I accidentally bought some 3-inch tips, and they were fine. They were actually fine for my regular, like in 4mm needles, US 6. Sue says, I love the minis with the small and long needle too. That's like me, Sue. Yona said, I ordered Addy Flexi tips, supposed to come in a few days. I had laddering with the 2 circulars and got laddering. So we'll try another kind of needle. Yeah, let us know how you go, Yona. Kim says, which side is the longer needle on, left or right? Right side, Kim. Well, for me, it's the right side. Daria says, I knit with minis, 2 small needles, but my hands are pretty small, so that might be why I like it. It could be, Daria. Maybe if you have smaller hands. I don't think I've got particularly small hands. I have big palms. But it could be that they suit you, your hands, being little. Amanda says, definitely magic loop, 2 at a time, but only if using a single colour. Angela said, hiya, loving the Pippi socks, especially the Skeins limited edition Possum Merino nylon mix. Oh, I didn't know they had that, Angela. I've missed that. Excellent. They'll be lovely in the Pippi socks. There's these ones with the little flower at the top. Lots and lots of you. That was lucky you got those, actually, because they were of those 3 socks that I just did, these 3, the new ones. They were an afterthought. Well, they weren't. They were last. I had another pair that I was going to do, and then I just had this idea, and I thought it would be really nice to do, because I think I did a survey, again, another little survey on my mini mag, asking people if they like toe up or top down, and a lot of people said top down, socks, cuff down, and I thought, I reckon we could get you a pair of toe up. I reckon we could. So I thought, what would be good and what would be quick and what would be helpful for you is a toe up pair in DK. And so I kind of bumped it ahead in my queue and didn't do the other one that I thought I might do, and did these last. So that was pretty lucky. Pretty lucky for you that I got that done. All right, I've made piles here. I'm going to talk about the piles in a second. Having only tried knitting socks once, says Helen, I tried Magic Loop. I ended up with a big ladder, so I gave up. Yes, that is the risk of doing it, Helen. And I think persevere. If you feel like you want to have another go, you will get better at it and you will lose the ladder. It's just one of those things that can happen that you get over when you're knitting socks, and you'll get a feel of it. And I do find I definitely don't get it when I have the tiny little needle on this. This just fits around a sock and I go round and round and round and round and round. I find it's really fine. I like Magic Loop too. I had sore hands with the minis, but I love minis for colourwork socks. Okay, so this is really interesting. You've got lots of different thoughts about when you're using different kinds of needles, which is, I think, is the aim of the game, isn't it? Is to figure out what you like when, and to have a few tools at your disposal. I found the back needle tips of the trios poked into my hands. Well, that's interesting, Barbara. Angela loves Magic Loop. So does Adele. And Val says, I think they're called Flexi Tip Addy. I have some, but need more practice with them. Practice is good. Rachel says, I love the twist shorty combo, as you can choose different lengths of small needles and cables to make the small circumference just right. It also helps me make my floats looser. Okay, oh, that's interesting, Rachel. I think that's what I have there, the twist short combo. Claire says, my favourite used to be DPNs, but now 9-inch circulars. I have the higher flyers, but I don't really love them. Sabrina says she's a 9-inch with the different end lengths, as I got fed up with the ladder using Magic Loop. Oh, here we go. Now all the 9-inch people are coming in late. Mary Ruth is also 9-inch. When I use Magic Loop, it gets caught on my watch and it's a tangled mess. And you've also got small hands. Yeah. Claire says I use the 3-inch on my left hand and I'm an English knitter. Okay, so that's interesting. So Claire says that unlike me, who uses my longer needle in my right hand, she actually puts it in her left hand. I am left-handed, so I don't know if that makes any difference because I'm fairly right dominant. I'm pretty ambidextrous actually, so I don't know if that would have made a difference. There are some things I definitely do left-handed, so that could be one of them that I don't know. But you could experiment. Don't take my word for just having it in the right hand. Swap around and see what you like. Katie says, I really like Magic Loop. Haven't tried the shorties. You haven't recovered from disliking the 9 inches. Katie, I think it took me about 6 years before I actually decided. They really put me off. The 9 inches really, really put me off. And it was honestly years and years and years before I tried anything else again. I just did not want to do them. I was so put off using them. It was obviously a very traumatizing experience using the 9 inches, but it's all changed now when I use the 2 different lengths. All right, there's lots and lots of messages here. You can see them if you go on YouTube. Actually, if you see them afterwards, I don't know if the live chat pops up. I think there's a place to see it, but maybe. Lots of people saying the minis hurt your hands. Started with Magic Loop. Your knitting didn't have as much stretch. That's interesting, Kathleen. So you're obviously knitting a little bit tighter with Magic Loop. Jenny uses 2 circulars, never gets ladders. Terry's loving the pippies. I love yours, Terry. You've put the dual-toned leaf in yours, which I thought about doing at first, but my colours didn't work. And I just had the colours I had, and I found the colours didn't work, so I ended up doing it slightly differently with one colour. I always use 9-inch, says Beth, speedier. And the ladder will often block out, said Beck. Okay, oh, that's good. Right, you're leaving me lots of comments. It's really good. Natalie says I'm left-handed too, but I knit right-handed. Me too, Natalie. Me too. But I play pull left-handed, and there's something I write left-handed, and there's something else. I'm right-footed. Play tennis right-handed. I do most things right-handed. Scissors right-handed. But there are just some things that I find myself I can do with both hands. Like when I used to do a lot of painting, I used to use both hands. And I didn't even realize I did till I realized I did. And there are some things I can just swap interchangeably, like my toothbrush or my hairbrush. I think, can most people do that? I don't know. But there are things I change. Okay, Tamsin said, Skeins. This is, everybody around the world can buy this yarn. Skeins.com with a Z. Has released a DK sock yarn today. It's $4.95 per ball until Monday at 10 o'clock. It's perfect for the pippy socks. Excellent. Well, that's good to know. That's a jolly good price. And I also know that Rachel, who's here at Good Wool Hunting, is also a New Zealand shop. And she has got some gorgeous new DK sock yarn, which she's posted about over in our hangout. But they have offered us, Truly Myrtle followers, a special discount with the code SOCKS. I think that's right, isn't it, Rachel? With the code SOCKS, you'll get an extra 5% off. On top of any other discount, you'll get an extra 5% off anything at Good Wool Hunting to do with socks. Not needles, I think, but everything else. Terry made her pippy and fingering yarn. Oh, good. I wanted to talk about that, actually. Oh, Cat Bordy has a great tutorial about using 2 circular needles. I never get ladders. Okay, well, there we go. That's a good thing to go and look at. Cat Bordy. She's got some really good sock things. All right, so needles. I thought that was really interesting, talking about needles. Use the needles that work for you. Don't be afraid to experiment. You can't go too wrong. And you can move between them. They're only socks. You could move between them in the same socks. If you find you don't like something, go to something else. So experiment with your needles. And I write my patterns as if you're going to use circulars, as if you're going to use the shorties that I use. Doesn't mean to say you can't use those patterns, but think about how you're going to set your stitches up when you're knitting if you're not using circulars or magic loop. Think about how, if you're using DPNs, how you're going to arrange them. And I will put markers in to designate different things. So you could just have your stitches on different DPNs instead of using the markers. Your end of your DPN could be where your marker is. So just think about how you're going to set it up as you're going. I think sometimes before you start, it can be hard to visualize it. But once you get going, you can see, oh, this makes more sense to me to arrange them like this on my needle. And just tweak it and play with it, and you can't go too wrong. Hi Jennifer from Melbourne, she says, I know there are no silly questions, but I'm knitting Urchin, 3rd time lucky, and after watching Sweater Fit Plus and getting the fit right. Anyhow, when you put the right shoulder stitches onto the left needle, do you knot the threads together or leave it loose and thread in later? I never knot them. I always weave them in later. I just leave them loose. And so it bothers me as I'm going. I'm like, oh, those loose stitches, so annoying. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll weave things in, but generally I try not to. I try and just leave it. And so when I'm finished, or I get finished apart a section and I can see I'm not going to rip back and change that, it's all good, then I'll go back and I might weave it away and make it firmer. But generally, I don't knot in my knitting. I don't knit 2 strands together at that point. I just leave things hanging and then deal with it later, as later as I can manage it. It's like underarms. If I'm picking up and I'm doing an underarm and I can see that there's a little bit of a hole on either side and I haven't done anything fancy to like fix it, I'll look at it and then I think, oh, but I'm just going to fix that. And I just go and I just pull my yarn along and I close my hole and then I feel better. I tend to do that if I know I'm not going to go back. Warning, says Gay. She's got a warning for us. This is a good warning, Gay. When you're knitting outside on a wooden deck with DPNs, you've lost one of the set when it dropped down and disappeared through the cracks. That is like me in the car, Gay. So you might be like me and you might just toss your needle when you're done with it and then away it goes down the crack. Oh, good, Jennifer. Your lovely daughter scored 2 lovely jumpers. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad you're back on track. Okay, so what else was I going to talk to you about today? I had a couple of things. I've actually got some questions. I'll quickly race through for you the handouts because, I've still got that sock toolkit. It's always going to be there. And if you're catching this many years from now, you can go and grab the sock toolkit. And it is 3 short guides on knitting socks. The first one we talked about a lot last week, which is about measuring. The second one is this whole toe up versus top down debate, just making it simple. And I just walk you through what you do when, and it gives you a sense of what it looks like. I always do a heel flap and gusset. That's what I prefer. So that's what I've covered here. And the third one is about socks that fit and feel comfortable. And I've got ideas about if your foot and your ankle are slightly different. I had a little boo-boo in it and I fixed it. So if you got yours ages ago, I have changed just two things on this handout. I must have been very tired when I was making this. I had two things that I just put in the wrong way around, but I fixed them. Just this here, your foot and ankle ratio. If it's greater than 1.1, your ratio, then your foot is larger than your leg. And if it's less than 0.9, your foot is narrower than the leg. I had those round the wrong way, but I fixed it. And if you're on my mini mag, I will send you an update of that anyway. So if you got it like in the first couple of days, then just download it again and just double check what it says. I also got the labeling wrong on the foot. I put the A was an ankle. It's clearly not an ankle, it's a foot. Anyway, those are fixed. But to grab those, you can just go to trulymyrtle.com/sock toolkit, one word, and download those. You put your email in and I'll send them to you. They just come one day at a time. There's a video there all about it. And that actually reminds me is I'm doing something new that I have done for wardrobe toolboxes for a while. And with new patterns, I'm going to give you a little video about each of the patterns. Really short video. But for these three patterns, that's not the pattern, these three patterns. For these three patterns that I have here, there are videos on my website. So if you're wanting to make them and you're not feeling sure, then I talk about how they're made and the yarn I used and any little tips and tricks for each of them. So those are actually in my shop on the website. You can just go and watch the short video. And I'll do that every time now with new patterns because I think it's just helpful to have a listen about how it's going to be made. I can't put those videos onto Ravelry, so you can just find them on my website. Okay, those are all those things. I've got, maybe I'll talk about that next week because I wanted to just wrap up next week some of the sock stuff. But let me have a look at this machine because I have got some questions on the website. Rosemary sent a question into trulymyrtle.com/ask, ASK. I've got a few of them here, which I'll go through. Rosemary sent one in, and she's asked about, she hasn't received her pattern. Rosemary, the best thing to do, I don't see this very often, and so I'm not going to be able to follow up with you quickly. I don't go and check this all the time. I check it when I sit down to do a podcast. So the best thing to do is to contact us at hello@trulymyrtle.com. And I believe Claire has told me she's already spoken to you. So hopefully, Rosemary, you're all sorted out now. If you're buying a pattern from the Truly Myrtle website, create an account and log in to buy the pattern. Just like with Ravelry, you log in. If you're not logged in, that pattern will not be saved in your Ravelry library, and it's the same on the Truly Myrtle website. We kind of have to know what your account is before we know to put the pattern in that account. So if you're buying a pattern on the Truly Myrtle website, create an account, and then when you're buying a pattern, make sure you're logged in, and then the patterns will be saved in your account on trulymyrtle.com. This is not Wardrobe Toolbox. That is completely separate. This is just Truly Myrtle for patterns. And then you can go back and you can download it again and again and again and again. They'll be waiting for you there. So Rosemary, hopefully you're sorted out now with Claire. Ruth says, I get a bit confused regarding yarn weight. I understand 4-ply and 8-ply, but what is Aran weight? Is it 10-ply? Also, and more confusing, worsted is a method of creating yarn with fibres all lying long and smooth when spun. So what is worsted weight yarn? Okay, yarn can be so confusing because we have so many different names for it around the whole world. And I think a lot of us are now adopting Americanisms, as we tend to do outside of America. We seem to be adopting Americanisms because all our TV is American, pretty much. There's quite a lot of British TV out there, but anyway, Americanisms. So we tend to talk now about fingering yarn, and we don't actually talk about worsted yarn. Really, the only thing we talk about is fingering yarn, which is 4-ply. For anybody who is in the Antipodes or in Britain, but I'm not sure about Canada. You might have more of the American terminology. I don't know, but those kind of Commonwealth countries generally originally used plies to describe the weight of a yarn. We'd call it ply, which in itself is very confusing because although originally it probably had the number of plies to designate the yarn, now it isn't relevant. A ply is a single strand of yarn, and when you ply things together, you can create yarn. And we would have had 2-ply, 3-ply, 4-ply, 5-ply, 8-ply, 10-ply, 12-ply, and so on. And they designate a weight of yarn. Now we just use them to describe the weight of yarn, but it doesn't matter how many plies they have. You could have a 4-ply that has 1 strand, and you could have an 8-ply that has 3 strands. I mean, it's all a bit muddled. But the Americans, and what we tend to say now is fingering. I will often use that term, fingering, for a 4-ply yarn. And so we know it's the weight of yarn is 4-ply. It doesn't necessarily have 4 plies, but it's a 4-ply or a fingering yarn. Where we get a little bit confused is when we come into the DKs, because traditionally in New Zealand and Australia and Britain, the DK weight, which is our 8-ply, is lighter than an American DK. And that kind of mid-weight jumper that you get, not lightweight, just that mid-weight, not really, really heavy, warm, but not overwhelming. A DK, although some of us at this age, it can be a bit overwhelming. But that DK weight is like a common mid-weight of yarn. Well, our DK, or 8-ply, is about 200 meters per 100 grams. And the American DK is a bit lighter, because the American mid-weight yarn was a worsted yarn. That's what it's called, worsted. And it's a little bit heavier. It's not as heavy as our Aran, which is a 10-ply, which you've asked here what Aran is. It's a 10-ply. It's not that heavy, but it's not as light as our it's not as light as our DK. It sort of falls somewhere in the middle. So if we're thinking about gauge, you tend to get around 22 stitches to the 4 inches or 10 centimeters for our DK, an Antipodean DK or a British DK. But for an American DK, it's going to be probably a little bit higher, but their worsted, which is really the equivalent idea for the jumper, is going to be more like 20 stitches. And so it's just a wee bit heavier. It's probably about 180 meters per 100 grams, something like that. So it's a little bit heavier. Now, to add complication to all of this, we have the way yarn is spun, and we have worsted spun, and we have woolen spun. And traditionally, all yarn will have been a woolen spun. You have very little wastage. You can use all sorts of fibers. It would have been a traditional way of spinning yarn. It's very woolly. It's very light. It can be it's quite loosely spun in comparison to a worsted, because you can't make things too tight. It turns into rope. It's beautiful, beautiful, and warm. So the woolen spun is, as it sounds, woolly, and then a worsted spun is very smooth, and all the fibers lie in the same direction, all beautifully aligned, and you twist it up tight. It's very strong, slinky, dense yarn, and heavier yarn, and that's a worsted spun. So we have these 2 different types of spin. Sometimes you just can't really tell what's going on with the yarn by looking at it. You can't tell whether it's a worsted or a woolen spun yarn, and you have to kind of inspect it a little bit to work it out. Sometimes it's really obvious to you, but some worsted yarn, smooth yarn, some worsted yarn can be quite woolly, so it can be a little bit deceiving. It can have a bit of a halo, and it can appear to be quite woolly, but it's quite a bit stronger. Woolen spun yarn can pull apart quite a lot easier. That's different than describing the weight of yarn. So we've got worsted, which is the American mid-weight kind of jumper want to put on something that's a little bit warmer but not too heavy. It's not a bulky, it's not really thick. It's just that mid-weight jumper yarn. Sweater yarn is a worsted weight, but it may not be worsted spun. That it might be woolen spun instead. So we're negotiating a lot of different cultures now. We're navigating a lot of different terminology from all over the world. So it's a funny thing that we're having to do at the moment. Hang on, I'm just gonna get rid of someone who's leaving silly comments. Okay, so hopefully that explains it for you. It's a matter of trying things and just trying it and getting a sense of it. I actually watched something interesting the other day. There's a lovely podcaster that I watch from time to time, and she was saying, she's talked about a pattern, and she said that she and it said that it was made with a particular kind of wool, but it didn't specify what the weight of the wool was. And she was wondering what it was. Is it a DK? Is it a worsted? Is it a fingering? Like what weight is it? Because in order to substitute. And it occurred to me that what I do is I look at the actual weight of yarn per 100 grams. And so or 50 grams or whatever it is, I convert it always to 100 in my head. And that way I know what the yarn is. I'll give it a loose, I loosely identify it. So I would look at it and I'd say, how many meters, because I think in meters, but you could say yards. How many meters or yards is it per 100 grams? And that way I'd say, okay, well, that sounds to me a bit like it's going to be fingering yarn. Well, that sounds to me like it's going to be worsted yarn. That's probably what and I get a sense in my head of what that is. Or I look at the gauge it's knitted at and I think, and I could inspect the pattern. I could look at the gauge. I could say, oh, okay, so it's like, 19 stitches to 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And it's a fairly open gauge. It's not too dense. So I'm thinking, okay, well, it could be a worsted, but it's more likely to be on the side of a DK. Or maybe someone's held a fingering with a mohair. And so we've got a little bit of a looser gauge. And so my mind just immediately goes down that road, thinking it like that. So it pays to just, when you're getting yarn, and have a look and see what the yardage is per 100 grams and get a sense of it. Maybe write it down. I think sometimes I can't remember anything unless I write it down. And then I can go back to it and I can have a little chart and can have a go. Inside Wardrobe Toolbox, we've got in our tools, we've got some stuff that'll help you with this kind of thing. So go and have a look in the tools if you're in Wardrobe Toolbox. Otherwise, there's all sorts of stuff on the internet, but you could make a list yourself when you get yarn. Keep a yarn diary. And keep a little bit of the yarn. You could keep your swatches and make a note of what it was and what it's called. And over time, it's just becoming familiar with the yarn so that you'll know what it is. Oh, there's lots of people who are losing their DPNs in the car and down the side of the lazy boy chair. I told you, you must do what I do. And you just, I don't know, I literally throw it. I do it with scissors as well. It's not safe. I do it with scissors. If I'm finishing, I'm making something, I realize I just toss them. I just toss them down and then I don't know where I've put them. I really don't know. I obviously go into full-on creative mode and I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so what would I call a sport versus a DK weight? So yes, because Americanism is also sport. That's a 5-ply. That for this end of the world, that would have been a 5-ply. And I think there was a bluebell yarn, Peyton's bluebell yarn, I feel like, could have been a 5-ply. I feel like that's right, back in the day. And so that's a sport weight. Sport is a lovely, lovely weight. And for those of us who are feeling particularly warm, our thermostats are a little bit off kilter, a sport weight is a really nice weight of yarn. My Alex jumper is a sport weight and it's not too heavy, not too light. It's lovely, lovely, lovely weight of yarn. So 5-ply, a little bit heavier than a 4-ply, a little bit lighter than a DK or 8-ply. And yeah, it falls somewhere in there. In Australia, we used to, and sometimes still do, use the term 4-ply, 8-ply, etc., but now it's fingering. Yeah, Linda, I think a lot of us have adopted the Americanisms for this, or the American terminology, simply because I think it's with the advent of the internet and with knitting has been transformed by the internet. I think we can all agree that it's a totally different beast now. And because we're all, we're looking at this call here. I'm talking to people in America and Britain and Australia and New Zealand and all over the world at the same time. It's wild. This is wild. And who'd have thought there's so many of us out there? And so we're just having to find common ground in what we're doing. And of course, don't forget, this is an assumption that, all yarn is different. All yarn. We're not in the situation that we were many, many years ago, where I can remember being a little girl and walking down, because my mum didn't drive for years, walking down to the Harp of Erin in Green Lane. I don't know if any of you would know where that was. It's now a car yard. We'd walk down to the Harp of Erin and there was a guy who had a shop in there, and I remember we used to get terry toweling hats in there. But I can remember looking up and he had shelves of wool, and Mum could get some wool and leave other wool there. And so you wouldn't buy it all at the same time. And I would have been, I don't even remember being able to look over the counter. I was that little. little. I would have been preschooler. And those were the days when you just bought the yarn that was there. You didn't have much choice. And so when we picked up yarn, then you knew what it was going to do. The world isn't like that anymore. It's not like that at all. Apart from the fact that we have lots of different companies making yarn, we have also independent producers, and we have, so much choice. We're buying internationally, we're buying locally, we're buying from, beautiful little farms that are making their own stuff, everything. We're buying everything. And if you're a spinner, you already know this, because every time, you can spin things and they'll come out differently. So swatching is your friend. In order to understand what the yarn is doing and also to know how big the stitches are, swatching is really the way to go. You'll learn a lot. Blueface Leicester. Is it soft? It's beautiful. Yes, Blueface Leicester is soft. It's a lovely wool. It's got a good bit of bounce to it, but it's actually got a little more drape to it than some of the merinos. In Wardrobe Toolbox, we had a really good masterclass. I don't know if you're in there, Joan, but we had a good masterclass in the last couple of months with Linda from British Kettle Yarn Company, and she talked a lot about Blueface Leicester. It was really interesting, actually. It was a good one to go back and watch. Roberta said, I built a little formula in Excel so I can always input the weight and length, and it spits out the meterage per 100 gram value and the name, fingering, DK, etc. Roberta, that is perfect. Perfect. If you can do that, that's perfect. And just put it in and get a sense of what you're dealing with. When it gets tricky. Yes, and then Jess has reminded me of something else that we have to add into the mix. It gets tricky with weights when you consider the fibre content, as a wool that is worsted weight is not the same length per gram as a cotton yarn, and even silk. Even when we start putting silk in, silk yarn seems to go so much further, and we have all these yarns, linens, and the blends that we have now are extraordinary. I just got some yarn yesterday, and it's a fibre company yarn. It's called Cirro, Cirro. I really fancy doing something in it for this time of year. It's light and soft. I'm fancying soft yarn, and it's got a cotton core, and then it's got alpaca and merino, and it's got quite a halo to it, and it's really sort of buffy yarn, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Cirro. If you can hear that noise, it's because my daughter's just arrived home, and when you drive and you're a teenager, you have the stereo very, very loud. She's turned off the car now. Anyway, it's beautiful yarn. So we also have we have all of that fibre that comes into it as well. I think Rowan Felted Tweed is a lovely yarn that feels more of a sport weight. Yeah, I've got some of your, Rachel, I've got some of your felted tweed here. I really must do something with it. It's lovely. But it does, to me, it feels more of a sport weight to me too. Heather said there used to be a six ply. I don't remember that, Heather. A 6 ply as well. So it just would have been a very fine ply that would have been 2 ply, 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them, 8 of them. I can imagine as they added them up, the yarn gets thicker. More, than a DK. Yes, you're right. I think the Rowan Felted Tweed just seems lighter. It seems more like a US DK than a British DK, and that could be a commercial decision, couldn't it, on their part? BFL, it's not as soft as merino. It's a 24 to 28 micron. I find it pretty soft. It probably depends. I've got some. I feel sort of silky to me, the BFL, but it might depend on the BFL you get. I mean, it's not always going to be all the same. Sport weight is my favourite, except for colour work. It's just too hot for postmenopause. Yeah, Andrea, I'm finding that as well. Go for the lighter yarns. Although every now and then I don't know, it's different. Every now and then I'm wanting something warmer. It has to be quite cold. Gay said, I knitted my husband's jumper in sports weight instead of DKs. He prefers lightweight and knitted up beautifully, and I used Skeins Southlander, which price-wise was very economical. Yeah, the yarn I had for Truly Myrtle was on the Southlander base and the 5 ply and the DK, and I have to say I really love that 5 ply yarn. It was really nice. So it's a sport weight yarn. Are there a lot of choices of yarn and 5 ply? Not really, Cassandra. There's not a heck of a lot of choice, not comparative to something like fingering or DK. However, don't forget all the things we learned when we were making Rita and we were holding yarns together. You could hold a couple of yarns together to make yourself something that was equivalent to more of a 5-ply. If you're using some lace weight and held it together with something fluffy, or you just work out what you can get to make that weight of yarn that you want. Scissors are the bane of my life. I have to tie shoelaces or a ribbon on my fabric scissors, or they end up as craft or kitchen scissors. Yes, no, that is so true, Maureen. Scissors are forbidden for anybody else. A lot of you are saying you love 5-ply. So Jennifer says, I just spun some 50-50 merino alpaca. Okay, so the alpaca's got less recovery, and it's going to have, more. You're going to get more length out of that because it's heavier, less length. It's heavier yarn. It works out at 258 meters per 100 grams. Would I see that as a DK? No, I wouldn't. I would see that. So it's a little bit more than a DK. It was more like a worsted, I would have thought. But the way to know, because the thing about that is you've got alpaca in there. Alpaca's heavy, and so you might get more yardage, even though it's a similar thickness of yarn, because the yarn is heavier. And so the best thing you would do is to swatch it and then get a sense of what it wants to do. How is it blooming? How does it, how tightly does it want to be knitted? Does it want a little bit more room and a little bit more air? I think going back to thinking about gauge is interesting. And so you can get a sense of gauge when you know the yarn and the fibers and the gauge that you're making. You can get a better sense of the fabric that you're creating. You love my top, says Helen loves my top. This is Noah. This is a DK, and it is a silk and cotton blend. It feels quite cottony, but it's not. It's got a sheen to it. It's really nice. It was beautiful to knit. It's by Papyrus is the name of the yarn, and it's the top is Noah. This little pattern is called Noah, Noa, and it's a new pattern inside Wardrobe Toolbox. We got it in the middle of this year, and so it's a relatively new one. It's a fun one. I did an interesting start on the shoulder construction. We did a little shoulders and then we joined at the back so that you've got a nice little curve on the back neck there, which I think makes for a good fit. And then we've got this added stitching in here because I knew the yarn, you see, this is when it's good to get to know your yarn. I knew the yarn was going to collapse because it is a cotton silk. It hasn't got much recovery to it. It would be fine, but it will lose its shape reasonably quickly. And I didn't really want it to be completely shapeless. I mean, it is a fairly shapeless top. It's got a fullness to the sleeve that I wanted, and it's got a fullness to the body, but I didn't want it to just collapse on my shoulders. There's a lot of stress on your shoulders when you're wearing a raglan. It's the least, her yokes aren't great, but it's the least really raglan's structure in them. And so I added the stitching right down the side to help pull back some of that structure. You don't have to do it, but it's an option in the pattern. We're so spoiled. Here we are with all the beautiful yarn. Oh, we should enjoy it though. It's a fabulous time to be alive. Oh, you're going to be back next week, Shona. All right, see you later. I'm wearing Noah. Yes. Okay, I'm going to scroll down real quick. Good times. 250 is a light DK, but a bit fat for a sport weight. Yes, so it's more like an American DK. But having said that, the alpaca. Think about what the alpaca could do to it. So it is a heavier yarn, and it will probably bloom out a bit. So I just would want to swatch it. You can also try wraps per inch, but it has the pitfalls. It can be inconsistent. Yes, you can wrap, like so my little sock thing, this idea here that you can do wraps per inch, and you can wind your yarn around this little part here, and then you get this many wraps and this wide, and you don't want to crunch them up too tight together. It's a little bit inconsistent, but the wraps per inch can give you a vague idea of weight as well, but nothing beats swatching, nothing, because then you'll really understand what that yarn is doing. When is this available outside of Wardrobe Toolbox? It'll be next year. I try and keep them for a year to Wardrobe Toolbox only, and then everybody else gets them. So it'll be late next year sometime. Probably in our spring next year, I imagine I'll put it out. I don't know. I'll decide when next year comes. I'll decide how busy everything is, because sometimes I can get quite crunched up with things. So we'll just see. I've got some other good plans for next year as well. Okay. Oh my gosh, we're doing okay for time, I think. Okay, so Ruth, hopefully that was a long discussion about yarn weight, but hopefully that helps you. Linda has a question. She says, hi, how do you measure needle tips for the size using needle gauges? Should the needle just fit in the hole or slide through? The reason I ask is some of my Knit Pro Symphony needle tips don't have a size printed on them or it's rubbed off. I find the Knit Pro rubs off. It's crazy, it rubs off. And I also find the Chow Goose, I can't freaking see it at night. It's so annoying to me. I can't see the size. When the light hits on the Chow Goose, it's impossible to see, especially the little needles. And so I have to spin it around like that because I'm so blind. And then I can see it. You're not going to be able to see it. But on there it's printed in, but it's not indented, so I can't feel it or anything. It doesn't wear off. I think the higher highs might have the best size, but actually those colorful Knit Pros, if you're really struggling seeing the size of your needles, that they could be the way to go because they're different colors for different sizes. Okay, she did have a size printed on. It just fitted in without sliding through. I wanted to double check for you. I use a standard New Zealand white plastic rectangular measure that's available at Spotlight with the wool cutter on the bottom and the ruler at the sides. Okay, so I got a couple of, I actually saw this morning, so I grabbed out a couple of my measurers. The thing about measuring is I think I probably could do with a metal one because and I've also found that not all needles are created equally, okay? Because sometimes I find some slide through holes a little more easier than others. And I think once you've started a knit on a particular needle, stick to those needles because I think they can all vary ever so fractionally. It is fractional. I have this one that sits next to me when I'm sitting in my on my couch, and it has these needle sizes on it. And but they get a bit worn away. You can see some of them getting a bit worn away. My feeling is that they might wear out. I replaced this maybe a year ago. I'd had one for a long time and I just felt like I think the holes are getting a bit worn out. But so what I like to do is these needles, we can see what they are. I can poke them in, and if they go in, fine, they go in. So then I just try, they have to go all the way through, because it's the barrel of the needle. That's what you're measuring. This is the barrel. You create your stitch on the tip and you tension it by sliding it up to the barrel. So that's the size. So I stick it through, great, it all fits through. Let's go for the one below. Oh yeah, it fits through and I can feel like I'm touching the edges, but it goes through, that's good. It's that size. Go down one more, can't get it through. Okay, so it's different. This is definitely a 4mm or 6 US 6. So it goes all the way through, but it's not loosey-goosey. If you find it goes through, try the one below. So that's the one I use. I also have this one, which I ripped, that had a gauge square, which I never use because that's hopeless. I like to use a ruler. So that was all floating around. I think it ripped on one end. I took it off to slip into my needle pouch. And this one is okay. This one feels like it's not going to wear away quite the same. It's kind of a firmer plastic. And so it's the same with that. You have to go all the way through and make sure the needle barrel is the right size. These wood ones, I hate to say it, I don't think I trust those in the slightest because although it's telling me, all of them are telling me it's a 4, but I think this one might be the one that will change the most. I feel like I need a metal one. Yeah, and I think that would, someone's saying that Millwards have a metal gauge. I feel like that's going to be the best one for me. But having said that, this 4mm needle may not be, it should be exactly the same, but it may not be if I buy them years and years apart, and it may not be the same as another brand with 4mm needles. It really might not be exactly the same. So there will be slight inconsistencies between them. So stick to the needles that you started your knit with. Those little needle measurers are my best friend, as I can never find the numbers. I know, I use them all the time just to give me a sense of what they are. But you will find, like I especially find it with the smaller sizes. So something like a 3.25, I find that some of the 3.25s slip easily through the hole and other 3.25s are stiffer through the hole. I think there's more of a variance perhaps on those smaller sizes. It's my feeling anyway. I have no evidence of that, other than some of them are tighter and some of them are slow, smoother. US 1 is actually a 2.5 versus a 2.25 like ChiaoGoo and other brands. I recently found. Oh, okay. So the Addy's US 1 is actually a 2.5 versus a 2.25 like ChiaoGoo. Okay, yeah, because the US sizes don't have a 3.25. That's the other thing. So American sizes go 1, 2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Is that right? But the 2.75 is what is it? It's a 3. I've forgotten one of them. I've forgotten which one it is. But Americans don't have the same. They have the same number for the two sizes. I think it's a 3 and a 3.25, something like that. Or is it 2 and a 2.5? It must be. Oh, I can't remember which one it is. 2.75. Maybe they don't have a 2.75 technically. I think that's right. I can't remember. I just know there's some little funny business that happens at the bottom there. I try not to use that needle very often anymore in my patterns because I know it can be a bit of a funny one for people. I didn't even realize that ChiaoGoo had the size printed on them for a few years. Listen, I need a magnifying glass to read them. Look, when you're trying to read them at night, which a lot of us sit there and at night and you're, knitting, you have to get the light to hit it in exactly the right place or you can't read it. And because it's not on both sides of the needle, it's just crazy. And so you have to find it, locate it first, and then angle it like that. And you're trying to work out what it is. And often I'll give it to someone. One of the children can look at the size. They can always tell me. Or you have to take a photo and hope that you've actually got the right place and then enlarge the photo and see what the size is. It's better to have a needle gauge next to you. You can just use that. I feel like the best ones are the ones that are made by the needle you're using. If they can't get their needles to match the gauge, there are bigger issues going on. Actually, that's a really good point, Amanda. And that one is in my needle pouch, and I do mostly have ChiaoGoos. So that is the one I mostly use. But that one's the one I have next to me if I'm just grabbing a needle and I'm not sure which one it is. I will check before I start the next row if I'm going from long needles to short needles, those sorts of things to try it on. You could also get some bright nail polish and add a colour per size to the needles on just a spot, and then in the case add a spot to what slot they live on and write the size on the spot. Melanie, that is actually genius. That actually is a really good idea, putting the colours on. You'd pretty quickly get to recognise the colours. We are making the 2.25 now. Okay, so the Americans are making the 2.25. You don't have a 10.75. Oh, do we? I never get that big, Donna. I never get that big on anything. This one stops. I don't know. I get confused on which side I'm looking at on that machine. That one, I'm not sure. It can be frustrating when a pattern asks for a specific size. Yeah, but you could also just wing it a little bit. So I think it's Kayla, isn't it? Happy Crafter. You could also just wing it so that if it says it wants you to have a 2.75 and you don't have one, maybe just do a 2.5. Like for a ribbing or something, if you just have to go down, just go down to something and see what it's like. You could play with it a little bit. A tubular magnifying glass would be a great cook. Tubular magnifying glass, is that a real thing? It would be a great tool. And curl around the edges. Okay, here we go. Look, I'm yabbering now. I've got one more question from Jackie. Hi Libby, thanks for the sock toolkit. I've stumbled my way through socks once before, but got inspired by the toolkit last night and did my measurements. She's made a start on Jilly. Right. So I said on the stock toolkit, she's got a couple of questions there. She's going to look at Wardrobe Toolbox to see if there's something. Yes, there will be something. She's got a question here because on the foot measuring, I talked last week to tell you about how for a sock it should be about half an inch or 2.5 centimeters smaller than your, that was circumference, 2.5, half an inch or 1.3 centimeters smaller than your foot. On the easy foot measuring guide, you see that I've said take about half an inch off your foot length separate from your toe and then your toe length. And she was confused about that. Technically, that is the same as just taking half an inch off the whole thing, but if you are going to make adjustments to your toe, you don't want your toe to have negative ease. You just want it on your foot. So if you're thinking, oh, I might make some changes to the toe, or I need to figure out what's happening with, I really need my toe to start in this particular place, and my toe has to be this length, then it's probably a good idea to measure your foot separate from your toe and then add those two together. That would be the most sensible thing to do. If you're someone who's just going to bowl on through and knit the toe as it's described in the pattern, then you could just take 1/2 inch off the whole sock. But if you're thinking you actually want the toe to hit you in the right place and your toe is going to be the right length, which is probably a good idea, then measure your toe separate to your foot, where you're going to take 1/2 inch off your foot. Okay, so that's probably, hopefully that answers you for that, Jackie. Okie doke. So I'll finish by quickly telling you, because we've gone through, last week we talked about the measuring guide, and the second of those 3 guides is all about top down or toe up. And so I thought I'd just show you which of mine were top down and which were toe up. So the first ones I ever did were top down, and so I can't remember which the first socks I did. I think it was these ones. So I did top down socks, was Lodestone and Footsie. They're top down. I've got 3 pairs of DK socks, which are all top down. Maggie, Florence and Eliza. Those are all top down socks. And then Viva, the new ones, not Viva, I've got a cow called Viva. Diva socks are also top down. Okay, so if you're wanting to think about those. Toe up, because I think you can do toe up, and I can see a lot of you are doing toe up, although some of you are telling me you're going to work it out to make it top down. This is a toe up sock. It's in DK, Pippi socks. Some of you are making this top down, and that's fine. You can just convert it to top down if you want. And some of you are making it in fingering, like Terry said. You need an 8-stitch repeat for the flowers. So as long as you work out what your circumference is for your foot in your gauge, you can work out how many stitches you need. Just make it a multiple of 8 so that the flowers fit and you can get the right number of flowers in. But otherwise you're good to go going down. I'm not going to go through all the details of doing that today because it will take me too long. These are also toe up. So I've got Jilly socks. These are cute little socks. So those are toe up. They all have a heel flap and gusset. That is what I like to do. And those are toe up. The Petra socks, they're the new ones. And these ones are also toe up. The Love Bug socks, they are also toe up. And they all have a heel flap and gusset. That one has got a feather in it. Wondering if I could do Diva toe up. Yeah, I don't see why not. I think you definitely could do Diva toe up because you've got the Pippi sock now, Terry. So if you follow the same arrangement, you just need to know how many stitches you want to get to for your top of your gusset, but you've already done the other sock, so you kind of know how many stitches you like at your gusset. So you could do that, and you can just do your heel separately, just like I did. See how I did the heel is its own colour? So you could do that in the Diva socks as well. And you could also do the whole idea of with the stripes, just starting and finishing on, you know, making sure you start and finish with the right stripe. So you could finish after a purple stripe and then start on a blue stripe would probably what I'd do for that one. But yeah, you definitely could do that. You definitely could do that. Just follow the same mechanics as a Pippi sock, but you know, for the other one. It's nice to see your thumbs up. If you fancy giving me a thumbs up, that's always nice. You can do that. Thumbs up, thumbs up. It always is good for me. And the podcast, YouTube loves it when you give me thumbs up if you've had a nice time. Natalie said, I'm knitting the Lodestone sock pattern as I watch. I love the design. I've learned a new technique with the slip cable. Excellent, because I do give you some cheats ones, don't I? I think that's the one I gave you a little cheating idea to do the cable without a cable needle. I do like cabling without a cable needle. And this has got a little slip stitch cable, and I think I think that's the one where I said, okay, how about just try this instead, and you won't even need a cable. So, yeah, they're fun, Lodestone. And there again, you know, remember, if you're unsure about the person you're knitting for, the size of their foot, or you like things to fit you with a nice snugness, think about putting some ribbing at the back or getting a sock that has a bit of ribbing. I think you'll enjoy that if you're sort of new to sock knitting and you actually want something that fits. Okay, I think that's everything I was going to tell you. We're going to wrap up our month of socks next month because we are getting to the end of October. Horrifyingly, October's coming to an end soon. We're in the middle. Don't panic. We've still got a little bit to go. But it came with a cheat. Oh, yes, I thought it did. Excellent. So I will see you next week. Same time, same place. We'll do a wrap up of our sock chat. Don't forget, if you want to grab the sock toolkit and you haven't grabbed it yet, there are 3 guides in here. There's actually 3 guides, not 4 guides. That's an extra bit of paper. Then they will be delivered to you one day at a time. And just go to trulymyrtle.com/sock toolkit, one word. I've got a little video there. You can pop your name and your email address in and I'll wing it off to you. If you want to jump on my mini mag list, I'll also send it to you there. But if you're watching this much, much later, Sock Toolkit is the way to get it. And you can jump on my mini mag at trulymyrtle.com/mini mag. And I will send you the Sock Toolkit tomorrow. I'll make sure there's some links in it. And I think that's all I had to tell you. All right, everybody, have a really happy week. I will see you next week for another knit and chatter. We'll see how much warmer it gets here. We could be on the way up now. Could be getting warmer and warmer. I bring out the summer tops. That would be nice. Alrighty. Oh, good. You're loving Wardrobe Toolbox, Janet. Yay, that's really good. Oh, hi, Yeliana. Nice to see you from Ottawa. Excellent. All right, everyone. Have a happy week. I will see you soon. Do lots and lots of knitting. I am on a knitting mission. You'll notice I haven't posted on social media. It's because I've gone down a knitting hole. I am in the middle of knitting something, and it seems to take all my attention when I'm trying to work something out, and I just forget about all of the other things. And so I'm knitting. So if you're thinking you're feeling bad because you're sitting and knitting, I'm going to be sitting and knitting as well. I'm going to be doing a lot of sitting and knitting. Alrighty. I'm going to catch you later. Bye, everybody. Happy knitting.